Good afternoon, Irvington and Christian Park. It's Harlan here with Home Redevelopment Solutions. Listen, I followed through on my promise. I asked you if you could give me some innovative ideas on how to address crime in our community. That one lucky winner would win breakfast at the new pancake house coming to Irvington on the main strip. And that award will soon be made. I think they're planning to open Batter's Pancake House later in the fall, towards the end of October. That said, I did take your ideas and turn them into action. I wanted to see if we could take these ideas and actually present them to IMPD. And I was very fortunate to sit down today with Ann Holy, the president of Christian Park Active Community Neighborhood Association, as well as leaders in South District IMPD to discuss specific issues and ideas that were presented on crime and crime prevention for the area. And I was informed today, I learned about the districting, and it was made clear to me today that the Irvington area doesn't, of course, follow in Southeastern District. It's actually the Eastern District. And I've received the information for Commander Roger Spurgeon, who I hope to reach out to and have a follow-up meeting to, again, present the ideas that were discussed in the string of communication and comments on Facebook in both groups. So, I'm surprised. What did I find? Well, actually, there's a lot of resources already available, and that was one of the number one discoveries was that there are many community education and crime prevention programs and a number of other already organized resources available to the community and to neighborhood associations and to individuals. That's no surprise. What was one major takeaway that I enjoyed was the city website, MAPS, M-A-P-S project, is a technology that allows you to actually see crime reports in your area. So one of the ideas that had bubbled up was, what if in our monthly neighborhood association meetings, we monitor the volume of crime reports that are being made in the area? And then there was some discussion around, but if we did that, we should expect that initially, if we presented this idea and formalized a plan around it, that you would see an increase in reports. Because one of the most prevalent challenges, actually, that I've heard across the board as I dig in deeper into this is that people are no longer calling 911 when they should be. Oftentimes people take to Facebook or social media, but they're not calling 911. That's the first issue. The second issue is that if you formalize a program around increase awareness and let's see what we can do to continue to report, then of course you'd see a spike. So if there were people that were calling because they're learning in education programs that we might launch to watch over their shoulder or to be safe or to not open their door but call the police and that kind of thing, then of course there's going to be a spike for a period of time. So the idea was that, hey, if you use reporting, let's keep our eyes on it and know that there are probably going to be some ups and downs, and also that it'll take a long time for us, anyone, for neighborhood associations, individuals, neighbors, residents, and the police department to see results of our efforts. So let's just keep that in mind. The common conversations around lighting, that is something that's being addressed. Conversations around watching out for your own property was really interesting because I think we just are forgetting, or perhaps we're complacent, or maybe there's a sense of denial in some places of maybe in just among some of us who feel that it couldn't happen to me. And so, for example, just the most simplest things of locking your doors, locking your garages, locking your cars, not leaving valuables in plain sight, and making sure that you're vigilant, keeping things lit up, keeping your yard lit up in the front areas where your cars, all of that, it seems sometimes to be common sense, but maybe there's some complacency, and maybe there's some of this, it could never happen to me. But actually, people, it can, and it does. And so the purpose in all of this investigation is to figure out, why is it happening more? Someone on the Facebook group also mentioned that we should address the causes of the increase in crime. And the causes are very significant social issues. Some of it comes from drug or addiction related. There are a number of different causes, from economic status and struggling to, we could have a conversation forever about this sort of thing. And so I think we're going to take away some ideas and look at, well, how can some of those things be addressed? And in fact, with the new community justice campus that's coming to the Twin Air area, A lot of those issues will be addressed by the way they handle programming, that it will include healthcare facilities and policing together in the same location, so that people are triaged to determine, hey, yeah, they broke the crime, but does that mean that they should be locked up? Now, I don't know the specifics of the programs and how that's going to work, but I've heard this a number of different times, and it was mentioned again today in the meeting. There will be some special programs, and I think it's in collaboration with Eskenazi as well as IMPD. Moving on, so we've talked about lighting, we've talked about the obvious, lock your doors, we've talked about not opening your doors if somebody late at night or after dark knocks on the door. And one very interesting thing that someone said was, well, call 911 when someone you don't recognize is knocking on your door. That may actually be a method because, of curbing crime, because it's very likely that someone that's knocking on the door after dark is up to no good. We also talked about sort of reinvigorating the conversation about what it means to be a neighborhood crime watch, and how we might be able to connect more activity on blocks per se. And so there were some great ideas around what already is in place and how to sort of revive some of that. A recommendation that I had and was pursuing was for us to have a conversation about utilization of social media and utilization of compelling content, which is an area of interest to me. And one thing that we discovered was that IMPD says it's a double-edged sword, and the reason is this. Something could happen, for example, you could have a crime that occurs, and within just minutes someone else might post that they know who caused the crime or may have seen it, as opposed to going to 911. And that might actually tip off the escape, or really give more time to or break away from IMPD's capabilities of actually getting in and capturing the perpetrator. So I think that's a very interesting point. And then secondly, there could be a long-term watch that's going on where IMPD is very aware, although we don't think they're aware, and there's other activities underway to capture someone who is obviously against the law. Let's talk for a second about blighted properties. IMPD has regulations where they're not able actually to do certain things when it comes to, unless they're allowed by the property owner to be on the property. I'm just learning of this, and I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper to learn more. But someone had posted this morning about that on the Facebook page when I mentioned that I was going in to speak with IMPD, and it turns out to be true. There are times that IMPD cannot access the property unless they see something extremely obvious and outside of the law. So let's keep that in mind. On the other hand, they were very animated and very vocal in the conversation when it comes to known homes that are drug houses or consistent problem homes, and that they want us to keep calling in on these, keep reporting these, because they are paying special attention to that. So this is interesting because through their work and work with the city, and including paying attention to blighted properties, or what should be a vacant property but maybe has a squatter or so forth, we should always keep calling and keep calling. Those campaigns over time will address the issue. So I think that's it for now. It was a very interactive, awesome meeting. I learned a lot. I learned about crime prevention in the area. I was really extremely thankful for their taking their time out of their busy schedules to sit down with me. If there's any takeaway that I was a little concerned about, that is that I think I could sense the frustration on both sides. So I've seen your frustration as a resident in the East Side. I know my frustration, and I've now witnessed the frustration on the side of IMPD, in the sense that we're doing that, we're already trying, and then across the board, limited resources. And I don't actually think that's just rhetoric. I think if you boil it down, resources are probably limited. Cash, funding into IMPD's capabilities is probably limited from city, state, and otherwise. And, on the private citizen side, we also just don't have deep pockets to run out and have expensive alarm systems and whatever else you might say that might be crime prevention tools. So this is an area that I'm chewing on. I'm thinking as an innovator. I'm trying to figure out what does this mean, because I think maybe through innovative private and public partnerships we can seek funding. I'm not sure, and maybe it's just too big of a problem to solve. But one thing for certain, I just can't buy into complacency. I think it's just too much to just throw our hands up and say, well, forget about it, because I think we all know where that's going to lead. And so if I have a challenge for you today, if I can one-up the challenge before that won you breakfast, won some great lucky person breakfast, I'm going to challenge you one more time to ask that we please refrain from complacency. I think every individual, every person, family, or partner, mother, father, uncle, aunt, grandparent, whomever you are out there, has a direct responsibility for your own safety, for your own crime prevention and watchfulness, and in the brotherhood of neighborhoods, let's say, helping to watch out on your neighbor. We all must do that. That's incumbent upon us to live in the beautiful city that we live in. And so I really hope to challenge you today to think of ways that you can be vigilant, not just for yourself, but also for others, despite what you may believe is when you should just be able to count on public services to help you, because it just may not be the case in all instances. So I hope this has been helpful information, and I just want you to know I'm not going to stop here. I'm digging in. I'd really like to learn more about crime prevention, and literally, folks, I'm just a neighbor doing what I can, because I do not like, as a new person who's moved into the East Side, I just don't like it when I see complaining without solution or resolution. I really feel it's incumbent upon us all to take action, and I know people don't have a lot of time, and I know people are taking care of families and working hard, and a lot of other things are going on. But I just like to do what I can do, and that's all that I can control. And so what I can do is use technology. What I can do is post on social media and keep the relevant conversation going. What I can do is encourage you to do the same. And where it's possible, if I can connect the dots, I love to network with people and connect the dots behind the scenes. That's just innate in who I am. And then one last thing before I let you go, folks. Thank you for watching the video this far and paying attention to my post. But this is incredibly near and dear to my heart. Let's watch out for our elders in the community. The East Side has an extremely high volume of age-in-place elders and potentially struggling informal family caregivers. These are people who are not trained but are taking care of their parents, and in many cases they're taking care of their parents and they're taking care of their children. So they're strapped on both sides of the coin and just really stressed out. The bottom line is that when it comes to crime prevention and it comes to sort of watching out for your neighbor next door, I hope that many of you who are capable will reach out and embrace and take care of, help to take care of or look out for the elders and their informal family caregivers in our community. And when it comes to crime prevention specifically, let's keep our eyes out for them. I was told today that oftentimes these elders in the community are witnesses to crimes, but they do not address calling in, or really they don't want to call 911, and they do not want to be witnesses, and they do not want to be known for this. They think that it will risk them in many other ways. I have a hunch that's not only the case for elders. I think that's the case for you and me and many others. We don't want to be witnesses. The police department tells me, without a credible witness, without being a good witness, and then bringing that forward and following that through, there is little they can do. So there are 2 points there. Let's be credible witnesses. Let's pay attention to what's going on around us, and let's be willing to step up with our voice in the community as witnesses to these crimes. And secondly, please, I challenge you to pay attention to what you can do for your family as well as the elders in the community and their caregivers. Thank you, and if there's any other ideas, please share them here, post them. Love the comments, love all the feedback. Looking forward to being your neighbor and hopefully, again, having vision. I have a vision for the future of the East Side that's absolutely beautiful. Very beautiful parkways, beautiful streets, lots of jobs, lots of people thriving, a lot less crime. I look forward to seeing you on that day, and in between, let's work together. Thank you.